properties that we have in Flexbox. Now we want to work on this simple card. All right, this is very simple, and we're going to use Flexbox, some of the Flexbox properties. All right, and of course some box model components and things like box shadow. I can see some box shadow is happening here, and of course the border radius as well. So quickly, let's get into it. And yeah, this is the document right here. So we have this index.html and then the style.css. I've already linked the style.css here. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is I will create the HTML first and then go ahead with the styling. Now, before you start any design, you have your design right. First, take a look at it and understand different components that actually make up that design. We have this card right here, and then we have just two texts. This is quite simple actually. For me, basically what I'm going to do is there's going to be a container, right, for this card. There will be a container, obviously, and then there will be another container for these two texts, this heading and then this paragraph. All right, and then inside that container for these two texts, we have my heading and then the paragraph. All right, so let's try that. So first, I will create a section. Okay, so I will give the section a class. So using the BEM methodology now, I can actually call it card as well. It's a card. All right. And then I mentioned that I will create a container for these two texts, right? The heading and the paragraph. So that way I can use a div, and then I will give this a class of card _content. So I will give it content actually. So as you can see how I'm actually coming up with the class name, and then you can tell that the class name is quite descriptive, right? Card content. So content here is the element which has been separated from the block. So our block, which is the container, is the card. So card content. All right. So I will use H3 for the heading there, and the heading text there is John Doe. The paragraph is full stack software. I think there's a typo here. Software engineer at Scutigen. So John Doe. So I'm going to name this card maybe name, card username. Okay, yeah, card username John Doe. Then for the paragraph, full stack software engineer at Scutigen. And then for the class name, let me name this class. Sorry, yeah, card, of course, card underscore, maybe row. And there's another thing we can do. I would call this user row actually. User row. You can see that I'm actually using a single dash, not double dash. Double dash actually means I actually want to create a modifier for the element. But this way, the reason why I actually introduce a single dash here is because user row is that there are two words, right? User and row, and this way I don't want to write them together. This way it doesn't make sense. I don't like this kind of naming or convention. So I rather separate each word with single dash this way. So I think this is better. Great. So let's see our output. Back. Here is our design card. Yeah. Refresh. So we have this. Simple. So quickly take it. I will get straight to the CSS. So for the CSS, first I'm going to reset the default margin padding and then set the box size into border box. So I will use the universal selector, and then another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use a group selector by using comma. See universal selector pseudo element before. I'm going to explain this shortly. Then pseudo element after. I'll say margin 0, adding 0, box sizing, border box. Great. So what this two first and second line means is that if we have any margin or padding before any of the all the elements we have in our HTML document set to 0, and then we have after as well. So I've shown us how to use the pseudo element, the pseudo before element and pseudo after element. You can look it up on that particular episode. We have the CSS pseudo elements, and then we have CSS pseudo class. They are two different things actually. Pseudo element and pseudo class are two different concepts in CSS. So this is a pseudo element before and pseudo element after. All right, so before and after, margin 0, 0, and then box sizing, border box. Great. So save. Let's take a look at the output. Great. So we don't have any margin padding, no space. Everything has been joined together. So we actually want to start our design afresh. Next up, I'm going to for the HTML, the font size, I want to use rem auto. So for that, to make my calculation more easier, I will set the font size of the HTML to 62.5% or percentage, right? Which is also equivalent to 10 pixels, right? Save. Everything is going to look tiny now, actually. Yeah, but don't worry, we're going to figure it out. And next up, let's look at our final output here. Okay, we have this. I'm going to set width on the card. I'm going to set width on the card, take it back, and then back to our design. Okay, to my index.html. So the container has the class name of card, right? So slide of CSS. So card. The first thing I would like to do is to set the width to 350 pixels. Okay, 350 pixels, and then box shadow. Yeah, there's a box shadow going on there. Shadow going around the box. So for the offset X, I want 0. Offset Y, I want 0 as well. Then for the spread radius, maybe 10 pixels. Sorry, for the blur, yeah, the blur radius 10 pixels. And then spread radius maybe 5. And then for the color, I'm going to use the RGBA 000 0.2. Great. And let's see. Great. So you see, we have it right here. Before we start the styling, I would like to set some default value here on the body element, like the font family. So the font family I use on that design is cursive actually. Cursive. Okay, I would like to set the height, the body, to take the entire viewport height. So that way there is a unit. Again, you can look up the episode on CSS measurement unit. Please, it is very, very important. Look it up so that you can understand unit in CSS. So height 100 VH. I've explained all this, how to use VH, the percentage, and of course pixels and even rem. So save to the browser. So yeah, cursive, you can see the cursive. Now the next thing I will do is to keep the box at the center, right? So look at this card here. The card is aligned to the center horizontally and then to the center vertically. So we can use flexbox to achieve that. So back to our design. To keep this box now to the center horizontally and then to the center vertically, right? All I need to do is to make the body element or the parent of this card a flex container. So that's where I can move it to the center horizontally and then to the center vertically. So back to the design. So I need to identify the appearance of the card, and the appearance of the card obviously is the body, because section here is the card, right? The container, and then the parent, the immediate parent, is actually the body. So which means we need to make body a flex container. So back to the style. To make body a flex container, we have to set the display property flex. Save this. Actually, nothing is going to happen because the default. Okay, the only thing that happens right now is that the item will stretch to occupy the full height of its parent. All right. So card, that is section with the class name of card, is now a flex item. Remember, if you make an element a flex container, the direct child, okay, the direct child of that element will become a flex item. All right. And the reason why this section is actually okay stretching to occupy the height of the flex container is because of the align item property. If I take it back to the slide, align items, right, has the default value of stretch. You can see it here, align items stretch. So it will stretch to take the exact height of the parent container. And remember, we have actually set the height of the parent to 100 viewport height. Look at it where we set the height of the body height. If I change this to 50, the flex item, which is this card, we also want adjust itself to occupy exactly 50% of the viewport height. I save this, refresh, can see 50, but then I'll take it back to 100. I want 100. Save. Great, 100. All right, so next I want to push it to the center horizontally and then shrink it to the center vertically as well. So for the center, for the horizontal centering, all we need to do on the flex container is to set the justify content to center. Justify content center. Let's confirm that. Okay, great. Now to bring it down to the center now, vertically, we need to set align items. We need to override the default value of align items, which is stretch, and set the value to center now. We don't want it to stretch, but to keep it at the center. So now it's at the center right now. Okay, I think it's coming together now. Now let's see. So next up, I think we need to pad it. There is space inside the box, right? There are space going on inside the box, and I'm going to make use of padding to achieve that. So I will use padding. So padding, it has to be on the card actually, not the body. So on the card, I have padding of maybe 3.2 rem. So 3.2 rem is also equivalent to 32 pixels, because if you multiply 3.2 by 10, it will give you 32. All right, so 3.2 rem, refresh. Okay, great. So we have this, and then I think we are supposed to get a rounded corner for the card, right? Because if you look at the final side, we have a rounded corner, and for that we use a box radius, right? The card, so box radius, border radius rather, border radius of 1.2 rem, 1.2 rem. Great. So next up, I need to create space. So there's a gap going on. If you look at the final design, so we have this breathing space between the username and the user role, right? And if you look at our design, they're actually too close to each other. So to use gap, right, that means I need to make this card a flex container. So to make gap a flex container, I have to set the display property to flex first. So what's going to happen now is that all the direct child elements of this card will become a flex item, and they will be aligned side by side horizontally. So let's take it back to the document first. Look at it here. So we're actually making card. Okay, sorry, we're not supposed to make card the container right now. It's supposed to be card content, actually, the card content, right? So I will take it back. I don't want to make this because card content is the parent of the H3, that is the username and the user role. So card content we act as the flex container this time. So card content display X. So if card content is a flex container, right, it means that the direct child elements, which are the H3 and P, will become the flex items, and then they will be forced to be aligned side by side horizontally. So just look at the results now. So you can see it right now. Now, if I set the gap property, it's going to take effect along the roll axis, but the gap that we actually want it vertically, right? Based on the final result, it is a vertical gap, not an horizontal gap. So if I go back to our design and then say, if I go back to this is our current flex container. If I say gap, let's say 0.8, let's say 1.2 rem, for instance, this will take effect horizontally, which is not what we want. So to actually make the gap to work vertically, we need to actually change the flex direction. The flex direction at this point is roll. So to actually bring it back to column, that is for the username and the user row to stack on each other vertically, right? We need to change the flex direction. But first, I will comment out this gap. Oh my God, are we undo that? Okay, great. So I will remove this gap first, save, ensure that it's back to normal. Great. So I will change the flex direction. The default is roll actually. So we're going to override the default value from row, okay, to column. So column, we make sure that the flex items are actually stacking on each other vertically. Great. So now I can now use gap. So gap now will now function vertically and not horizontally. So gap of 1.2 rem, save, refresh. So you see we have this gap here. Okay, I think everything is coming together gradually. So the next thing, I think we're even done. We just need to increase the font size of the two content there. And if you look at our HTML, they are the card username and the card user row. So card username and card user row. So for the card username, card underscore username, I would like to set the font size to 2.4 rem. That's not too much. 2.4 rem. Okay, great. 2.4 rem, and then yeah, for the text here, I think 1.6. So card user row, card user dash row, that is the name. So font size 1.6, which is equivalent to 16 pixels. 1.6. I'm going to use 1.4. 1.6 is I don't want it to. Okay, great. And then I think the color. So there is a shade of gray that is going on the user role. So I will say color with territory should do it. And great, we have it. So that's that for this simple card component.